Islam, all rise. Time never was, the man was not. Right, gonna face the east, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Heels at a 45-degree angle. Repeat the mortuary prayer after me. Allah,
Allah,
Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide, and my salvation, by night, and by day, through His holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam. Praise be Allah. Open this meeting up. Moral Science Temple of America, Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Moral Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moral Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moral Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 that love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in the flesh, and on the Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father, God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Islam. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moral Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moral Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and the Constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know they are a part and parcel of the said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men must now proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must properly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moral Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moral Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father, God Allah. Islam?
Islam.
Man, it's a good turnout. Glad to see all the brothers and sisters. We're going to give praise to Allah, the great God of the universe. We're going to give honors to his prophet, Noble Drew Ali. We're going to give honors to everything that's Moorish, everybody that's Moorish, all over America, all in the United States, all over the world. Islam? I want to give honors to you brothers from Branch Temple 65 attending this demonstration. I want to give honors to all you brothers of Temple 19F here, right here on this location. Islam? Islam. I want to give honors to all the brothers all over. And so we're going to start this demonstration out by taking a reading from our Circle 7. And I'm going to go with chapter 3 on page 7. Elu's lessons. Actually, I'm going to read 8 verses. Actually, verses 1 through 8. Elihu lessons, the unity of life. Again, Elihu met his pupils in the sacred grove and said, no man live unto himself, for every living thing is bound by cords to every other living thing. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will love and not demand love in return. They will not do to other men what they would not have other men do unto them. 5, verse 5, there are 2 selves, the higher and the lower self. The higher self is human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self is the carnal self, and the body of desires is a reflection of the higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. The lower self is an illusion and will pass away, and the higher self is Allah and man and will not pass away. Islam, without delay, we're going to bring up our first speaker of the night from Branch Temple 65, from the brother, the Grand Govenor J, Grand Sheik. Islam.
Islam. Islam. Islam, Morris.
Islam.
Once again, I've been blessed to rise, bow down my crown in humble, submissive obedience to Allah's supreme discretion. We give praises to Allah, the author, the creator, and the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. We give so much praise to Allah because Allah, the only one, deserves thanksgiving, adoration, and praise. Allah is such a merciful and just God that he seen time fit to send us a holy and divine prophet. Our holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. The prophet Noble Drew Ali is the cause that we are here today. All us love the prophet Noble Drew Ali and what he did. This national and divine movement stands for the principles, the specific principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. See, the prophet Noble Drew Ali set this movement up to go one way. The prophet Noble Drew Ali, see, he was divinely prepared on his mission. He knew what the Moors needed to save themselves. You see, we had to step away from the animalistic nature, the Negro. The prophet Noble Drew Ali came kicking over the tombstones of Negro, black, colored, and Ethiopian. Let us know that we are not those people. So them peoples carry a particular character.
That's right.
When you see a Mo man, he don't have that character anymore. He has shaken off that particular character. He has picked up the axe. See, the prophet taught us how to use the axe. He said, you take the axe and you cut away the useless and ungainly parts and you make your character symmetrical. Islam? See, we're going to take the axe and we're going to cut away all those evil habits that gain strength with our years. Islam? The prophet Noble Drew Ali gave us the remedy. So we don't have no more excuses to run around and act like the Negro. We don't have no more excuses running around being an animalistic nature. We don't have no excuses of being against one another as brothers. You see, we don't have no more excuses. Once you pick up these divine teachings of the prophet Noble Drew Ali, you have love in your heart for your brother man. The prophet Noble Drew Ali said, this is a movement open for strong men and women. Step up and take your place in the affairs of men. Have race pride and love your race. That's why we here. We come together. We have race pride. We want to see the young develop more than they did when we was coming up. We want them to see more than Superfly and ETC.
We want them to see a more man. We want them to see what the prophet laid down. See, when you miss what the prophet laid down in your youth and in your upbringing, you have a tendency of picking up things that ain't no good for you. And then we find ourselves in dismal crypts, and we find ourselves being misused and abused by the law. Because you know why? Because we deluded to slavery. The prophet said every nation suffers slavery because they honor not the creed and principles of their forefathers. See, we got to honor the creed and principles. We got to come up out that slavery mentality. See what the prophet Noble Drew Ali was all about. Uniting our peoples. Bringing peace amongst the community. Bringing brothers together from all over. Brother from Wisconsin. We come from St. Paul. We all here under one roof demonstrating one piece of unity. Brotherhood. Love for our race. We want to touch each other. We want to feel each other. I want to look at you in a way that you return back to me in a vile, insidious attitude. Because why? I'm the Mo man. When you see me, I extend what? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. It's what my heart breathed for my brother man. It's what my prophet Noble Drew Ali put in me. You see? What the prophet Noble Drew Ali put in you, you can't let no man remove it. Because you know why? It's the truth. See? You got to be obstinate when you got the truth. You see? We ain't going to deter from the truth, what the truth is about man. I love you Moors. I love the Moor Science Temple of America. If it wasn't for the prophet Noble Drew Ali, I would probably be somewhere else doing something different. But I couldn't find nothing better to do, as my assistant Grand Sheik always tell me. I could be doing something else, but I can't never necessarily be doing something better. Islam, we all could be doing something else right now. But could we be doing something better? No, we couldn't be doing nothing better because we praising Allah, you see. That's what we're doing up in there. We're giving praise to Allah and we're giving honors to the Holy and Divine Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born in the state of North Carolina, January the 8th, 1886. Is that right, Moors?
Yes, sir.
And that is how many years ago? 128 years ago, something like that? 128 years ago, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born. The earth shook. The nations trembled. A prophet was born, you see? Prophet Noble Drew Ali, one that was raised amongst us, looked like us, stood on the streets of Chicago, went through the hedges and the highways and the byways, demonstrating up you mighty race. You understand me? Not you can do what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali instructed for us to do. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali instructed you to love instead of hate. You got to have love in your heart for your people. You got to have love in your heart for your brother man. See, you got to cleanse yourself of all those evil thoughts that gain strength with your years. When you pick up these teachings, what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has brought us, when we start picking up these teachers, what do they teach us? Love instead of hate. Love, brother. Love. We got to reach out and touch our brothers in the signs of love. We got to stop hurting each other. And another thing we have to do, what the prophet has told us to do. And that's why we are here today. We got to start showing more unity amongst the Moors.
Yes, sir.
You see? It don't make no difference. It's we from Branch Temple 65 and another grand body. It don't make no difference if the Moors in your community have love for each other. That's a small entity that bring you together. Because it ain't enough Moors in the town for it to be such a division. So we are here today reaching out in the signs of unity and love and demonstrating what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has blessed us with. With that, I'm going to take a reading from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Circle 7, divinely prepared by the Noble Prophet Drew Ali. And I'm going to leave you Moors. I'll read a message or two. Verse 2. I'm going to read from page 19. Chapter 12, Jesus teaches the common people at a spring, tells them how to obtain eternal happiness. In silent meditation, Jesus sat beside a flowing spring. It was a holy day, and many people of the servant caste were near the place. And Jesus saw the hard-drawn lines of toil on every brow and every hand. There was no look of joy in any face. Not one of all the group could think of anything but toil. And Jesus spoke to one and said, "Why are you all so sad? Have you no happiness in life?" Praise Allah! Why are you so sad? Liven this place up. It's a holy day, and we're celebrating the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's birthday. Islam, Moors. Islam, Moors. Islam. Peace. Peace.
Praise be to Allah. Our brother, Grand Sheik, Grand Govenor J. Boy. Give that brother a round of applause for that. Without delay, we're going to bring up our next speaker. The brothers from Chicago, Illinois. Brother Grand Sheik Chism-El. Islam? Islam. Brother, a round of applause. Always from Chicago. Islam, brother.
Islam, boy.
Blessing.
All praise be to Allah. Islam? Islam. All praise be to Allah. The Father of the universe, the Father of love, true peace, freedom, and justice, the Father of you and the Father of I, Islam. We come in peace, Moors, but we also have to come bearing the truth.
That's right.
It might hurt some, but we have not traveled all this far in the rest of our life not to do our job. For when I go back to my Father God Allah, what will I tell him? Islam? So we want to make sure that the Moors know we come in peace. We really appreciate you for extending this, even trying to extend the learning and the truth about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali to our people, wherever they may be. I appreciate it, Islam. One correction. I am not a Grand Sheik. Well, that you probably didn't know, but Islam. I'm not a Grand Sheik. I'm a Sheik. You'll never hear me say it. You'll never hear me say it. Because that's not important to me, Moors. Islam? That ain't important to me. That's something personal for my spiritual journeys and salvation that I'm proving to myself. The last person that will hear it is me, of my own praise. Because I don't look for that, Islam.
That's right.
It was a hassle getting up here, but all praise be to Allah. Give an honor to the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Because if you're looking for the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, since he is no longer here in the flesh, the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali are one and the same. That is why if you look at the Constitution and bylaws, as the brother have here, I don't want to take it out, but this is why the Prophet is standing in between the pillars of the law. Because he is the law, Islam.
That's right.
So the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America is one and the same, Islam. We must understand that. Okay. Islam. Let's touch on the central authority. The brother's bringing my notebook back. I was trying to rush into the place. Praise Allah. But I don't want to give you my drawing. I didn't come all the way to Minnesota to tell you how I feel. We didn't come all the way up here to tell you our side of the story, Islam. Because when you're talking about the Moorish Science of America and the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, no one has a side of to a story. There's no side of a story that no one has. I understand the brother wants us to speak on the history and clear confusion about what happened with the Prophet. Is that needed? Islam? I don't want to waste time. Well, that's what I'm asking. Islam. Okay. And I'm waiting on the brother to bring the original and clarified document so you can see it for yourself. So let's just talk on that, speak on that. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he set up the Supreme Grand Council. The Supreme Grand Council is 7 men and women tried and true, agreed to by you. That makes up your Supreme Grand Council. Islam? The Supreme Grand Council was enacted in 1928 by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali himself. It was never dissolved. Who carried on the Supreme Grand Council was Brother Edward Muab-El. Has anyone ever heard of him? Okay, Brother Edward Muab-El was the first Supreme Grand Sheik and Chairman that was handpicked, appointed, and anointed and consecrated by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali himself. No one else was chosen in that type of way of demonstration. When the brother bring my photo, I'm going to give you the original documents, because that's what we like to do from home office. Because voice of lips is not going to bring our people together. Me coming up and telling you some other side that you may not be familiar with is not going to bring you together. It's only going to confuse you. So that's why we try our best to be what we know. Islam? And here comes the brother now with it. Thank you, Brother Lee. Is that water over there? Right behind that blue bag. Oh, okay. Listen, thank you for bearing with us, more. Don't think that we don't appreciate that. Because there are no big eyes, little U's inside the Moorish Council of America. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you all know, but a woman can hold any office that a man can hold in the Moorish Council of America. Islam? Islam. Nationality is still the order of the day. And that's what the Moorish Council of America is about. When you look at Act 6, it tells you what we teach. We teach nationality and divine creed. Islam? Because that's exactly what it says right here in Act 6. It says, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, Moses Islam, and that's why we are here, because it is a new era of time. Nothing can be just unless it proceeds from reason. Islam? There is a reason why we are suffering from things that we may feel like, let me just back up a bit. We may feel like we were born here 1988, for example, and we're just living our life as individuals. But when you begin to live your life as an individual amongst our race, you come across some problems. Those problems could come from out or from within. But a young person does not know why they are being treated this way. Or maybe an older person, they don't know why. Why do they hate us so much? I don't even know how they got no money. What is it they want from me? And they already took, from what I heard, they took everything they could.
That's right.
Why are they still bringing on this type of vibration, if you will?
Yes.
And I didn't have the answer to that question. But for each and every one of us who searched for it, we found the answer from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Islam.
Yes.
Because he came to set the record straight of you need to know yourself and your Father God Allah.
Yeah,
Stand up and take your place in the affairs of me in Islam.
that's right.
And this is what the forerunner Marcus Garvey came to demonstrate amongst us, Moors. So don't be confused. Just stick with the Prophet and you will be okay. I cannot save you. Those who cannot save you, those who cannot save themselves cannot save you. So you better follow Prophet Noble Drew Ali and live. Islam?
Yes.
And we're gonna touch on that very dynamically. But we have to make sure that what we are teaching is nationality and divine creed. So let me just go over little things about nationality. Nationality, a people having a common origin, tradition, and language and capable of forming or actually constituting a nation state. Nationality ties us to our forefathers. Nationality enables us to claim our birthrights. Claiming our nationality puts us in compliance with the constitutional standard of law by name and principle. Nationality determines our political status in this government. Claiming our nationality puts us in a position where we can base our lives on the divine creed of our forefathers and adhere to those 5 divine conduct controlling principles that will, in part, cause us to become law-abiding citizens. Islam. And for all of you who don't know, it will be very clear after tonight is over that the Moorish science of America has been very misunderstood. The prophet said it himself, he said, I've suffered much and severely in the past through the misunderstanding of what the movement is dedicated to.
That's what he
The
said,
movement
Bob.
is dedicated to make our people better citizens, better mothers, better fathers, better brothers and sisters to each other. But from what he said, better citizens. Islam. So that takes away that whole spookism of a Moor coming up and only hating out of a misunderstanding. We don't hate America. We don't. The prophet told us in the additional laws not to speak right against the American flag,
That's right.
or the church or any organized group. Islam. And why should we be if we got all this science? You got all this science, and you gonna come down so low to start dealing with them? Nay. So the point that I'm trying to make, brothers and sisters, don't be confused when you see Moors out here down in America from a misunderstanding point of view. Because if you read the divine warning to the nations from the prophet November 30th, 1928, you can count on your hand, maybe both of them, how many times he cried out for a divine plea for true American citizens to help us in our situation. Islam. The prophet said that the reason that we're going through this now is because of his fame and nobility. So that lets you know, contrary from what you may not know, that many people may not talk about the prophet now, but he was famous. Right. He was famous in this government. Right. As a matter of fact, when people would demonstrate with the MSC evading the prophet, from my Negro, black, and colored mentality, I was thinking of them too low. I was reading the document, and I would think that the government would be interviewing the prophet. But it was the other way around. That's right. When people came to demonstrate business with our people, the prophet was interviewing them. That's right. The president of the Postmasters Club, governors, etc. So that should show you the type of understanding and power of all times that the prophet came to bring us. Islam. Let's touch on this, boys. Let's get to it. We have to feed you, brothers and sisters, so you can be what you know. The first thing we're going to touch on is our position. Take a little bit more hit of this water. Islam. The Moorish, and this is very important, and I'm going to show you out the back of this questionnaire. Our position. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a religious corporation founded by our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, in 1913 AD. Isn't that what it says right here? Corporation, religious affidavit of organization. Does it say civic? Does it say anything else besides religious? That's right. And this is what I love about the prophet, because there's no need to beat around the bush. This is from Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year of 1925 and was legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois. November 29, 1926, the name Moorish Temple of Science was changed to Moorish Science Temple of America in May 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of the State of Illinois. A national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples became obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit, right here, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in the Cook County Recorder's Office of Illinois. And here's our affidavit right here. So that should let you know that we don't need to go around filing out affidavit after affidavit. The prophet already has filed out the affidavit for us, Islam. That's right. And if you need to better understand this, you know, sometimes when you see things on TV and it's always in small print, because sometimes, you know, people may say they don't want you to understand. But it ain't like this with the prophet. You can come right down to the bottom of of this pamphlet, if you will, it says, see, heard your vast statutes, chapter 32 and 36, Islam, or appointed or awarded vestrymen or whatever name they may adopt. The name that the prophet chose was Sheiks, Islam? Islam. Let's move on, brothers and sisters. Okay. We're going to touch on the central authority. And this is another document from the Home Office, Islam. And this is talking about the central authority because this is what you need to know. Because the grand body that the prophet is talking about in Act 1, it represents unity for you. And it also represents Islam. To do the process of elimination, if you will, because I know many people have said that they're the MST, and you may think that we're a group coming up and saying, no, they're not it, we're it. But this is not like that, brothers and sisters, at all. Islam,
That's right. That's right.
we don't demonstrate like that. We're going to give you the facts where you could be able to see for yourself that he, your master, went that way. Islam. This is Chicago, Illinois, August the 13th, 1933. To the acting head officials and officers of the Moorish Science Temple of America, greetings. According to the divine laws laid down by our prophet, Noble Drew Ali, calling all local temples to meet with the grand body once a year in unity of thought, word, and action, under the 5 great principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. This is done to ensure to all locals, as to the membership in general, and cooperating on all the lines in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. This done according to this divine law, we have peace. Peace at heart, peace of mind, as should be among Muslims. And it must be generally known with all that there is a general understanding along all lands in all locals, and that peace and harmony prevails among all locals. And the grand body, which represents unity, it also represents Islam. Isn't that what it says? The grand body that also represents unity, it also represents Islam. Again, it would be well for us to take in consideration the divine law and instruction that was published for your guidance, in 1928 prior to the first convention. And it reads as follows. The prophet announces his authority and power. And does anybody know why the prophet had to do this? Anybody? Does anybody know why the prophet was forced to make changes? Have anyone ever heard of this? Let's get into it. Everything that we're going to give you tonight from the Home Office, it will be disrespectful for me to come up here and give you my drawing instead of the facts, Islam. So that's why I'm doing this. Forced to make changes. All governors and other officers of the Moorish Science Temple of America are hereby congratulated for their past loyalty and fidelity, for I know it will be the same in the future. This is why. Because of certain incidents that have risen in some of the temples, which seems to come from the fact that there are those who do not know where the seat of power is vested. The prophet has ordered the following to be published.
That's right.
All authority and power of the Moorish Science Temple of America is vested in the prophet Noble Drew Ali and those whom he appoints to act as in the supreme body. Let's stop right there. There are those out here, unfortunately, due to the confusion, they may tell you that we vote on offices. But right here, when the prophet filled out the religious affidavit that can be found in Heard Your Vast Statutes, chapter 32 and 36, it's like a blueprint for religious corporations. It says clearly right here, I, Noble Drew Ali, do solemnly swear that at a meeting of the members of the Moorish Science of America held at Chicago in the county of Cook in the state of Illinois on the 20th day of July, AD 1928, for that purpose, the following persons were appointed. This is where you can make the connection from where the prophet is telling you that about those whom he appoints to act as in the supreme body. The Moorish Science of America and the prophet Noble Drew Ali does not vote when it comes to appointing offices. Maybe on some issues, but not offices, Islam.
That's right.
Because, and we're going to read a piece from Sister D. Miliel when she talks about why the prophet didn't have any of that voting because it's Christianity, Islam. And she said the prophet didn't have any of that. The prophet has the authority and power to expel any officer or a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America who willfully violates or refuses to comply with the rules in regards to branch Moorish Science Temples. And such suspensions and expunctions shall stand in the judgment of the prophet. The members and the officers shall have made satisfactory atonement. All officers and members of the Moorish Science Temple of America and any such rules and regulations of the Constitution shall be in writing and not at variance with any law of the city, town, or nation which the prophet shall declare a law. That's very clear. He don't want you, as the Quran says, the Moorish Science Temple of America is a legally chartered and incorporated organization. The prophet has had them to issue to every state throughout the United States. So when he does this, for those whom he appoints to issue out to branch temples, which must come from home office of central authority, okay? When he does this, he's making it clear that he wants it to be in writing, and he wants to make sure that it is not at variance with any law of the city, town, or nation which the prophet shall declare a law. So that should show you that we are Moorish Americans, Islam, and that should further reiterate Act 4 and 5 about those who want to overthrow the government, because that's against the divine constitution and bylaws, Islam. So we have to really think, brothers. It's not going to be an easy way out. For anyone thought, brothers and sisters, excuse me, for anyone thought that it's going to be an easy way out, it's not, Moors. Do you think that for people who was high and high as we still are, but from where we fell, that to get back to that is going to be easy? Easy as a scheme? No, Islam. This is going to take sacrifice. It's going to take muscle. It's going to take strong men and women, as the prophet said, who think their condition can be better. Because when you begin to see something divine in you, you can begin to accept a divine and holy prophet was sent for you, Islam. But if you don't think that you are divine, you may have trouble with accepting a divine prophet that was sent for your salvation. During this session of the convention, all rules and regulations and laws of the Constitution and such as might be enacted or ordered by the prophet shall express and explain in detail, so there can be no doubt as to what is required of each and every officer or member of the organization. The prophet will positively not tolerate any interference with the operation of this national and divine movement from anyone, including me, Islam. And this is by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Let's keep touching on central authority. Okay? Now, at one point in time, because we have to touch on the confusion, when the prophet Noble Drew Ali changed forms in 1929, July 20th at 10:10 p.m. in his office, while he was giving Brother Edward Miliel instructions to do for the temple and the movement, and we have that original document here for anyone who wants to examine it. When the confusion was going on, I'm just going to jump up a little bit. It came to a certain point where the Brother Edward Miliel was sent to jail for 6 months. And when he was sent to jail for 6 months, this is where Kirkman Bey and a lot of other Moors had their run. Because no one was able to counteract the things that they were doing. And as a result of that, say about 1934 or 5, the Moorish Science of America was not available to the public as it should be. And because of this is why I don't blame brothers and sisters when they try to do their thing, Islam, and trying to help our people. Because if we're not here to assist them, then who are we to say they shouldn't be doing what they're doing? But there are laws and constitutions that we must follow, Islam. So as a result of the Moorish Science of America not being available to the public during those last year, I say about 35 up until maybe 38 or 37 or what have you. The point is that it was not available to the public. And as a result of that, many brothers and sisters took it among themselves to go out and create their own Moorish Science of America. As justified as it may seem that they did that, in law, it is not the Moorish Science of America. All Moors are not Moorish Americans. Do we understand that? We are Moors by birth. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction, Islam. But the only way you or I can become a Moorish American is if we proclaim our nationality inside the Moorish Science of America. Not inside the Moorish Science of America that I took upon myself because I felt no one was doing nothing that I went and created. Because that's not the salvation for you. That is not the protection for you. And as a matter of fact, legally, from a legal standpoint, this document is so powerful, Moors. At the top of it says our authority. There are only two religious governments in the world at this time. The one or the other is the Catholic Church, and the one is the Moorish Science of America.
That's right.
These are the only two. So if I get mad at the Grand Sheik because he doesn't want to make me a Sheik, or I don't like some of the stuff they're doing, and go out and create my own, that's not the Moorish Science of America. No matter how much good intentions and things I may have, it's not it. And if I bring other members and convince them that I can lead you through, like Lil Max Bay tried to do in front of the Prophet, then when they come, they're not Moorish Americans either. Because they are joining the movement that I set up, and I call it a similar name to the Moorish Science of America. It is not the Moorish Science of America. The only ones out here right now, because there are a lot of them, but the only ones that have all the minutes from 1928, the Prophet seals, that he seals the Qurans with, the archives of the Moorish Science of America, the charter, the first charter, which you have a copy of. This is the first charter. This is the first charter. And the Prophet wanted everyone to have a copy. But the original, whoever has the original, that's who you should be looking into. That's who you should be looking into.
That's right.
And it's not like a pimp scheme saying, I have this and maybe they don't have that. Do the research for yourselves, brothers and sisters. Are some of the people that you're following, do they have the minutes from 1928 up until now of every convention? Do they have the Prophet seals? Do they have the Prophet's charter? Do they? I haven't seen one yet. I've heard of many who say they do. But as a result of this, the brother Muab-El, I'm pretty sure many have heard of him. When he and brother P. David Seal came, what brother Muab-El would admit to you himself, and that's what I love about him. He's not afraid to tell the truth. He said at one point in time, I was in an unauthorized temple. But when I found out what a prophet's temple was, I ran steady, Islam.
That's right.
And I ain't going nowhere. But when they did that, they had to make it known to you all. They had to make it known to the public that the Moorish Science of America was back in action and open to the public. And they had to also prove to you, not by mere words of lips, that this is it, Islam.
Islam.
So this is a historical announcement, another document with a temple letterhead. And this was commenting on the first annual national convention of the Moorish Science of America, which was held in Chicago, Illinois, on October 15th through the 20th, 1928. A reporter for the Chicago Defender newspaper published the following. And if anyone has questions about the first convention being from October 15th through the 20th, and the second one being from September 15th through the 20th, just ask your questions, Morris. I won't give you my drawing. I'll show you, Islam.
Yes.
Because it is reported. Now, I don't want to be redundant, but this is just a short verse. Because of certain incidents in some of the branch temples, prior to the convention, far-reaching changes for the betterment in the administrative affairs of the organization will be announced during the convention by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and enforced by the Supreme Grand Council in the future to the letter. Further, to make changes, it is reported that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Supreme Executive Authority, will appoint a Supreme Grand Council of which he will be the Supreme Grand Head or Supreme Grand Chairman. The Supreme Grand Council will have the power and duty to control all The Supreme Grand Council will have power and duty to control and supervise all the affairs of the Moorish Science of America, and it will be the sole judge of what constitutes conduct of injuries to the order, peace, interest, or welfare of the organization, or at variance with its constitution and bylaws. Also, the rules and regulations made by the prophet, and shall be the sole judge of the sufficiency of the evidence by which the conduct is shown.
That's right.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali is being congratulated by Chicagoans on the success of the Moors' first annual convention and for his splendid work in promoting the cause of human brotherhood. That historical announcement, which took place on October 17, 1928, was indeed far-reaching. It set forth the Supreme Grand Council as the central authority of the organization and settled once and for all the question of who will succeed the prophet once his work was completed here on this plane. Names to that council were Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Brother Emil of Chicago, Supreme Grand Sheik, Brother Blackwell Bey of Chicago, at that time also Brother Lomax Bey of Detroit, Brother Ross Bey of Chicago, Brother Green Bey of Chicago, and Sister Pearl Drew Ali of Chicago. And many also know that many of those names, except Emil, turned state evidence on the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Islam. And that could also be why many people think that there's more than one. But the brother said, I have 2 minutes. I'm thinking, what can I give you from the prophet that'll be most beneficial to you, Islam? So, would you rather hear, would you rather hear more evidence where you can clear your minds up about the confusion of 1928 concerning court cases that was won by Emil, or would you like to hear Emil's enrollment, advancement, and promotions when the prophet appointed him to his station? It's up. I only have 2 minutes. I want to do what's best for you.
That's trying to confuse us.
Okay. Good choice, brother. I beg to ask you for maybe 2 minutes, because I don't want to give you part of it, because there's 3 pieces to this one letter that he wrote. Islam. This is May 23rd, 1931. Let me take a hit of water so I can keep going, guys. Islam. Brothers, brother governors, grand sheiks, and sheikesses, with deep interest of love and the earnest desire that you may know the truth and under the influence of the peace of Islam, I write you and your local that you may officially know about the outcome of the case directed against the judgment and wisdom of Drew Ali. I want to, in my outline, try to show you, if possible, and those who desire to continue in Islam under the leadership of Noble Drew Ali, that to follow him means victory, sure victory, the cause of the trouble, and pointing to you the victory in the case. Some would want to know what case and what caused the lawsuit. To make a long story short, it all grew out of selfish motives, leaving the prophet and his laws out of what they wanted done.
That's right.
Private making, self-appointed, craving for power, conspiracy to destroy, and having that spirit, if I can't rule, I'll ruin. You then ask the question, who caused it? The question is answered by asking another question and answering one. Who put his name on record as plaintiff A. C. Kirkman Bey? Or on the replicant as organizer and corroborator of the Moorish Council of America, C. Kirkman Bey. You have been told the cause and who caused it. Now you may want to know why it was done. I am sure I can tell you, if you want to be right. The prophet said he was going to try every one of you to the utmost of your endurance. Islam? Then he left his law to govern you in all things, and said, many of you have slipped, and slipped drastically, and you had better lace up your shoes before I get there. Right. And that tell all who are following him, if you are wrong, don't stay wrong, get right and do good. Islam. If you follow Drew Ali in this test, your redemption is sure. Remember, he said this was a lost fight and he was leading on to victory. Drew Ali represents the higher self, and him you follow. No one else is to take his place. The test that is before you now is to try you to see if you would really go after someone else rather than follow the prophet. And it's up to you now, and it really is. It's up to you now to choose who it is you will follow, the holy prophet or Sheik M. I can go into it, but the brothers only have 2 minutes, so let me just give you what Emilio said. The prophet represents the higher self in love, truth, peace, freedom. And said while here, you had a life to save for yourself or lose it for someone else. Follow Jurali and live. Remember the words of the prophet and watch the trends of the times and govern yourself accordingly. This is what Emilio said, and I feel the same way. And you should too. I would rather die than to betray the trust Jurali left me. And he said at the bottom, this is the making of the Supreme Grand Advisor. Who did it? It was done when I was on my trip around to the temples in 1929. And they confessed a few days ago that it was done in a private meeting. And that meeting took place as in August, as I visited the different temples. They kept it a secret till we met at the convention. And in the midst of our grief for our beloved prophet, they knew we wouldn't be expecting anyone to come in the convention with envy and hate. Yet, they did. And railroaded their purpose through, unsuspecting but not due caution, and to the effect that if there were any laws or resolutions passed that conflicted in any way with those of our prophets, they would not be considered law until the setting of the Supreme Grand Council, and that body hasn't had a meeting yet. And any actions on his part as Supreme Grand Advisor before the meeting of the Supreme Grand Council was and is unlegal. And this is from the first Supreme Grand Sheik and Chairman. Unless he had been given that right by the convention, which body it was that made him that. Then, since the council didn't meet before our next regular national convention, which met in September 15th to the 20th, 1930, it was then up to the convention to accept him or reject him. I know my time right now, bro. I'm trying to make it quick. They, the convention of the Moorish Science of America, and empowered by the same, according to the Holy Quran in verse 22, chapter 10, voted the act of the convention of 1929 non-constitutional when it made Brother Sheik M Supreme Grand Advisor. We sent this brother word to meet us in that convention. I even told him at my home. He promised me on the day of the convention we met, he would be with us in the convention. He wouldn't meet us. Why? He didn't want to see himself voted out of office. And those that didn't know the law as handed down by the great prophet, or those who want to be governed by his law, he kept them away too. But the prophet had called them, and if they failed to come, we feel sorry for them. Right. The action of the convention in 1930 was the first victory the prophet won back for the true Moors of their appointment and elections. That's right. So let us never be guilty of that sort of thing again. Some will tell you the people will have to say what must be done. The people have nothing to do with it. You be governed by the holy prophet Noble Jurali, and you will be all right. So the case went to a court of justice, and the judge decided in favor of the defendant, myself. And I hold a legal written statement from the court that the case had been tried and a decision rendered by Justice Eberhard on May 7, 1931. Many of them were there. It'll take 2 minutes, brother. There's part 3 of it. Islam. Many were there when the decision was handed down. Now they claim the judge has never passed his decision. There is no cause for them to be like that, only that they don't want to be governed by the truth now, since the prophet passed. And that is the only hope of all security. Our great hindrance to the prophet said, one great hindrance to my people is they don't understand the words of truth, peace, and love as set before them by the great prophet. He said so when he was here, and told them if they understood language, they would be all right. I am sorry for them, because not knowing, they blame me for all that has happened. Yet when the prophet was here, he told them he brought the divine plan of the ages, and they can't be changed. And the plans are called the plans of redemption, and were only brought by a redeemer. And this redeemer called me, ordained me, commissioned me, and then appointed me to my station, and instructed me that I was there to stay at his absence. And that all wanted that place. Yeah, they do. But said, I know who I want there. I know who I want to handle my money. He further said, you are to collect all money and pay off all bills. He still said, and you will have to do what I am doing. You will have to go around to the temples and report back to me. Time and space won't permit me to say all you want to know or what I would like to tell you, but I say as I have, to give you who don't know. or have not had the chance to know the prophet or be with him as I was. I had and have a reason for everything I did or have done, and can and will prove my authority by his Holy Quran and Constitution and his general and bylaws. But the idea is this: the plans are divine, and we are going through a crisis and conflict that must be before we can be redeemed. I hope I have made myself clear. If I haven't, write me. And if we haven't made ourselves clear, write the temple. Ask questions after this. He said, I hope I have made myself clear. If I haven't, write me. I love all. I haven't a pet in any place. No special favors for any under the 5 great principles of love, true peace, freedom, and justice. I hope to hear from you all soon. And if we expect to meet the Prince of Peace in peace and with joy to our souls, we had better begin to think, talk, walk, and act different. He was made in secret, and in the public, he was unmade. Get a program of 1929 convention. I have one here. If you haven't one, send for one. Read and think, and you will find out that the programs are printed before the convention convenes. Now trust in Allah through his prophet and live on. Follow anyone else and perish. Peace and love to all. Email Yield, Supreme Grand Sheik, Noble Drali, founder. Islam? Islam. Brother, I know my time up. Thank you. Islam. If anyone has questions and answers, after it, we're more than likely to help you with it. If you're the type of person, you need to see it for yourself, a visual. We also have photos that can clear up tons of confusion. So we are here to serve humanity, brothers and sisters. Islam? Yes. We came in peace, and we will leave you in peace. Islam? Yes. Thank you for listening.
In the water, in the water, Muslims bathe in the water. Water done trouble the water. Dead Muslims dressed in red. Water done trouble the water. It must be those Muslims who Ali led. Dry done trouble the water. Say away in the water. Way in the water. Way in the water. Dry done trouble the water. That Muslims dressed in white. Dry done trouble the water. It must be those Hebrew and Moabite. Dry done trouble the water. Say away in the water. Way in the water, Muslims. Way in the water. Dry done trouble the water. Dry done trouble the water. Islam.
Today we're going to bring up our next speaker, Brother Minister Khalif Muab-El from Madison, Wisconsin. Islam?
Islam.
Islam. Islam. Not enough Moors nation. Islam.
Islam, Moors.
Islam.
We measure time by cyclohagians. Beautiful message you laid out.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. Yes, indeed. The story kind of reminds me of how history repeats itself. It reminds me of, I can recall, we go to Islamic history where that same kind of fight took place between Abu Bakr and Ali and all those people as well. But today, I'm here to remind you of some key things. Some very, very key things. And I will begin with nationality. Because we are all here because we are proclaiming our free nationality. I'm going to tell you what that looks like. I don't know if any of you Moors know this or not. But according to the Constitution, there are 2 classes of people. There are U.S. citizens and there are American citizens. Right? The American citizens are considered to be the Europeans, although they are not indigenous. And the U.S. citizens are the people who were freed from slavery by virtue of the 13th and 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Now, the statute reads that we are defined as persons. Persons is not defined as a human being, but as property, right? Now, let me break down to you the science of who they used to call a long time ago Professor Drew Ali. Because when you understand, you see, Drew Ali said that he came to bring us what we needed to save a nation. So take it and save ourselves. Islam?
All right.
Now, like the brother said, no one can save you. You have to be empowered with the divine gnosis to save yourself. Islam? Now, there's no such thing. When you go to the UNs, when you go to the humanity courts, there's no such thing as a Negro, color, black, or anything like that. Ethiopian, all of those things were slave terminologies. All of those things were colonial terms that were given to us by slave owners. And not to mention that the indigenous people, 600 years before there was a Christopher Columbus, before there were anybody, we can go back to the ancient documents of North Carolina and we see the reports of Moors already there. We can see how the Moors were civilizing what we call over here the wilderness of America. We can see how we had already established temples. We had already established institutions, schools. We had already established these things before Rome came in. And the Moorish elders were the ones who passed the plan down. Now, one of the reasons why they snatched away the nationality of our people was because they understood who we were. And at that time, we knew who we were. But today, they know who we are, but we don't. Factually.
All right.
Factually, when we are looking at our conditions today, it is because the power that is impregnated in that national divine creed, that nationality, first and foremost. When we understand the power of the connection, then we will understand the power infused within us. And then we will know why they don't like us so much. We will know why the government has set up all of these institutions, all of these mechanisms to destroy and keep us down, keep us underground, keep us from knowing who we are. Because if we knew who we were, then they'll be afraid that we will rise back up to power and assume our position. Noah Ali said that they're going to run the government long enough to teach us how to run the government. We have to understand the zeitgeist of the people who stole what is ours. Now, Moors, I'm not here to tell you who you are because you should already know that. But I'm here to inform you about what it means to be who you are. Islam?
All right, Islam.
When you are connected to a national divine tree of humanity, what that means is you have a representative in the UN. Right now, as Negro colors, black color folks, African Americans, we have no representative in the humanity court. We have no representatives for our nation. But if you are Moorish American, there is a representation for us as a nation. Noble Ali was that representative.
That's right.
Now, in order for us to become U.S. citizens, we have to proclaim that nationality. Because if we don't proclaim that nationality, guess what we are in the eyes of the government? We are nothing. That's why it's easy to put us into these prisons and create this thing called mass incarceration. That's why it's easy to create slave codes, vagrancy laws, and all of these particular laws. That's why it's easy to keep us down, keep us from having jobs, keep us from having equal opportunity, inequality. That is why we are disconnected. Because we don't know who we are.
No.
Right? There are so many stories about who the noble one was. So many stories. I go across people and they say foul things about the noble one, not knowing that if it wasn't for the noble one, you wouldn't be free. They say, oh, he was a Freemason, not knowing that we are the original Freemasons. Kemetic term free means sun in the Kemetic language. And the term Mesen, which is another Kemetic term, means light. Well, Fi means light. Mesan means sun. Children of the sun is who we are. Right? Now, when these individuals begin to take upon our sciences by going through our dervishes and our adepts, they recognize the power in the proclamation of nationality. Alexander the Greek even detested his own father and said that he was the son of a man. But he denounced his own nationality to pick up ours. What does that say about who we are? Islam? When we are able to understand the context of a story, people create stories to feel a certain type of way about themselves. And when they create these stories, they create them for one reason. That is to keep something going on. Right? You want to keep something going on passed down. But when we go back to the original origins, the Moorish knights, the original Moorish elders, our people, they had stories impregnated with wisdom. And the story formality was used to preserve the essence of the story. Islam, anybody with me here?
That's right.
Now, today we just use stories as entertainment. But back then they used story as a weapon of wisdom.
That's right.
And only the conscious mind could reason with that wisdom in it. You see, you can have all the knowledge in the world. You can have all the knowledge. You can have so much knowledge. You got people walking around with so many backpacks with so many books. You got people always telling you what they know, everything that they know, and they know this, they know that, they know everything. But God has impregnated inside of everyone knowledge. But he has granted wisdom in portions. So one wisdom could be worth more than all the knowledges of the world. Islam? Now, when the noble Jew Ali said, the nobleman said this, he said, we are teaching people their free nationality. Right? See, what's attached to the nationality is freedom. That makes sense? To anybody? Because if you're not free, then you can't see justice. But in order for you to remain free, you have to pick up your sciences. You have to study those sciences. You have to become those sciences. In chapter 11 of the Circle 7, it says that together, Barata Arbo and Jesus, together they read the sacred scripts. Right? Barata Arbo was in a dispute with Jesus, so to speak. What he was doing was he was saying all this stuff that he had no knowledge of because of what somebody had told him. Islam, and it sounded quite good. I didn't get Moors like that. When I was teaching Moors, when I was in prison, when I was teaching Moors, I would tell them to read the first portion. And I would say, do you agree with that? 99% of them agreed with the first portion of what Barata Arbo said. But then when they heard the second portion, they said, oh, that makes much more sense. Be careful of what it is you believe. Because belief is attached to the heart. And whatever comes into this heart, it has to be protected. You have to make sure that the wrong kind of energy, the wrong kind of entity doesn't reach the rate of heart. Why? Because the throne of Allah exists there in the heart. And there's only room for one master. If another master comes in, then that causes confusion. Islam. And where we are today, we don't need confusion. We need clarity. Let me go further. Jesus said to Barata Arbo when he said that man is beast, bird, worm, and may manifest in Barata Arbo, Jesus said, Barata, enlighten Arbo. Who told you that man which is mine may manifest as beast, bird, worm, or creepy thing? Barata Arbo said, from the time our priests have told us so, and so we know. Jesus said, enlighten Arbo. Are you a mastermind and do not know that man know not by being told? Now let me go back, because I don't know if y'all missed it. Mastermind. That means Barata Arbo knew so much, but he had no wisdom.
Demonstrate. Yes, sir.
He had no wisdom because he was going off with all this stuff in his head that his priest had told him, and he never took the time to dissect that information and see whether or not it matched with what was already innate, created within him, or if it conflicted. Jesus, what he was doing was, he was challenging that energy, that greatness inside of him to bring it out. Because up to that time, it had been trapped in his mind. Right?
That's right.
Man is not mine.
Islam.
Islam?
Islam.
Man is not mine. He is spirit and part of Allah's heart. Jesus said, enlighten Arbo, do you not know that man know not by being told? Man may believe what others say, but thus he never knows. If man himself would know, he must himself be what he knows. My question today, if we know so much, are we what we know?
That's right. Yeah.
The Moors have fallen because they are not being what they know. Noble Drew Ali, regardless if you say he was a Python Knight, regardless if you say he was a good fella, regardless if you say he was part of the PHO, the Prince Hall Origin, regardless if you say he was a false prophet, regardless of whatever you say about this man, one thing is for sure is that he was a man on a mission for his people. And no one could come in the midst and distort his path to perfection. And he was not fighting for us. He was fighting for himself, because we are one in one another. When the Moors start to thinking divided, this, my brothers and sisters, is colonialism. We are still today. We measure time by cycled ages, and to each gate we deem a milestone in the journey of the race. When one gate closes, another gate flies open at the age touch of time. When we understand that when these divisive tactics of Rome come in to disperse, to divide us as a people, we must know who we are, and we must know who we are not. Islam?
Islam.
We, as Moors, have to understand the kind of attack that we are under now. And the thing that we do not have, the thing that we are dying to have, the thing that is causing us to die slowly every single day, either to the system, either to the streets, either to the gang wars, the thing that is causing us to die is no unity.
That's right.
Who are we to come in and divide what Allah has properly ordained? Who are we to come and take things and set them ablaze and say that we are the truth? You are not the truth. You are an imposter. Because if you are the truth, you would love what Allah loves, and love is what Allah loves. Unity is what Allah loves. Peace, tranquility, that is what Allah loves.
That's right.
Anything that comes within the midst that is contrary to those divine principles is not truth. So I ask the Moors in this room and Moabites, are we what we say we are? Are we what we know?
Truth that you bring. Islam.
Message. When we think about what a message is, okay? Messages come from the frontal lobe to your brain all day. Those are messages. Those signals go in and out of your head and into your heart. In the sacred wisdoms, we are told a story. One of my teachers, who was Sheik Nazim, he reminded me of a story of Adam. And I want to share this with you more briefly. He reminded me of the story of Adam. He said that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, he didn't just create one Adam. He created hundreds of thousands of archetypes. Okay? Let me repeat that. He created hundreds of thousands of archetypes. Muhammad said that Allah created hundreds of thousands of each of atoms. And between the period of each atom was a period of 17,000 years. Now, these atoms were archetypes. They weren't the real thing. When it got to the real thing, power came. But guess what? There was no such thing. And Moors are always going around with stories. We got so many stories. We need truth. We need wisdom. We need the power that is infused within that wisdom. With everything that you're giving comes responsibility. Don't say you have it if you are not going to be responsible for it. Don't say you know if you're not going to be responsible for your knowledge. Don't say you got if you're not going to be responsible for what you got. He said that archetypes, hundreds of thousands of different archetypes, right? And these archetypes are imitations of the real thing. So, do we have imitations of the real thing? How do we know what's the real thing and what's an archetype? He said that the thing that people don't understand is that the shaitan actually represented the fire in front of the gates of paradise. Because in order for you to be purified and perfected before you enter into God's presence, you have to be purified, rectified, and your heart has to be empty of nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in order for that struggle to be a victory, you must first go through the fire. And going through the fire, we must have endurance. We must have patience. Because patience is faith. You're not going to be patient with nothing if you don't have faith in it. You're going to leave, you're going to go that way, that way, that way, and every other way. And I'm going to close here shortly. We must understand that as a nation, we have fallen once, but we have resurrected again. Noble Ali said that he had come to snatch the veil off of all secret societies.
That's right, sir.
And they killed him for it. But not before he gave birth to all of you. His work is done through us all. Who he is what we should be without doubt or contradiction. This man had the ability to travel the world, to sit with the greatest sheikhs. And I studied some of these sheikhs that he sat with. For instance, Muab-El was a king-sized wali, recognized throughout all of Islam. But do we know who Muab-El is? I'm Sufi, so I know what they call Sufi. But the thing is this. What he learned about our people, what he learned about our condition, what he learned about our spiritual state, what he learned about what was taken away from us, what he learned about what was stripped away from us, what he learned about what was impregnated into us, what he learned about the rights that were being held captive and taken away from us, was that everything that our forefathers was, without doubt or contradiction, you are today. And let me tell you, they were great. They were greater than great. And so are you. My message, in conclusion, is be what it is you know. Because the calamity of knowledge is forgetfulness. If we forget, then we have missed our opportunity to walk into the divine presence of Allah and find out who Allah is. Because once you realize who Allah is, I wouldn't have to tell you what I'm telling you today. Islam.
Islam.
We're going to take a reading out to Circle 7. One of my favorite chapters, chapter 25. I'm going to go to page 35, chapter 25. Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nations. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of this whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam? Islam. It's a powerful demonstration. To the podium, my last speaker of the night. I got to commend each and every one of y'all Moors that came out. It's a beautiful thing. It's we sure could have been doing something else on this holy night, but you know, we here celebrating the prophets.
Like you know the song, brother?
Demonstrating, yes sir.
Oh, the joy that came to me when I knew that I was free. Oh, let the prophet found you, put his arms around me. Oh, the joy that came to me. Oh, the joy that came to me. Oh, when I knew that I was free. Oh, when the prophet found me, put his arms around me. Oh, the joy that came to me. Islam.
Thank you, brother Chairman.
Islam.
We're going to see our last speaker of the night. P. Justice-Bey, Sheik Temple 19F. Islam?
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Yes.
Islam.
Islam.
I'd like to give praise due to the one that's all God, all knowledge, all power, all love. Allah be a sweet, holy, and divine name. Islam.
Islam.
I'd like to give honor to all prophets, both known and unknown. Special honor to your prophet and mine. No bad birth, no bad will, no bad steal, no bad jewelry. Islam. Islam. I'd like to give honor to any and everything that Moors have brought for the uplifting of fallen humanity in the Moorish nation. Islam.
Islam.
I'd like to thank you brothers for coming up, my speakers before me, with their eloquent message of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and what he brought to us, our nationality, which is key, which is the call of the day. Islam?
Islam.
I'd like to give honors to a Moorish flag right here that got a 10,000-year history right here on this land. I'd like to give honors to our American flag that got a 200-year history right here on this land. What does this tell us? 10,000-year history right here in this land, 200 years. We've been here long before the Europeans ever came. Islam?
Islam.
Before Christopher Columbus came, when he stumbled up on this land with his ignorance, he just didn't find the natives of America, so he found the Moors here. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said we was walking up and down the Mississippi long before the Europeans ever came. It's no strange happenings that America is developed the way it is. We made it so.
That's right.
Even driving over here today, Asiatics did this. shifting gears, the changing their light from red to yellow to green. We did that. Brooms, dustpans. We got heating going on. Asiatics, cooling system going on. Asiatics. We built this country.
That's right.
But they're not going to teach us this, because when we find out who we are as being Moors and how we conquered land, and then we're going to come back to our present state where we're supposed to be, on our crown. You draw? Then we the only people that the European keep putting down. Call yourself nigger. You know what I'm saying? It's an ignorant word for us to be calling ourselves this.
That's right.
And the Europeans love this demonstration, Mo, because they don't want us to go to our rightful place. It's to conquer this land, because we the original conquerors of it. It's no nationality that came not with us. Any European, they came through us. Asian, they came through us. We was in Europe long before we even know we was in Europe. We brought running lights to Europe. You know what I'm saying? Europeans was doing all type of foul demonstrations. The Moors came through there and brought penicillin and cured these people from their illnesses. But they're not going to teach us this, Mo. You know what I'm saying? They're going to keep us deaf, dumb, and blind. But we need to wake up. That's why we're here today, on the signs of unity. Islam? Islam. Matter of fact, that's what we're going to rotate on. It's customary that we rotate on the circle 7, divinely prepared by Prophet Muab-El Ali. On page 36, chapter 26. Holy instructions of unity. The gifts of understanding are the treasures of Allah, and He appointed to everyone his portion, in what measure seemed good unto himself. He appoint everyone his own portion of understanding. Was my portion of understanding was seem good unto me? Is more science. Now, probably not good to anybody else. Maybe Judaism or Christianity is good for you. That's why I honor the more scientific America, because we draw that every man worship on his own vine and fig tree. But this don't mean that we close up those other books, because as I study the Circle 7, Holy Quran of Mecca, I open up the Bible, because it's only basic instructions before leaving earth. So we can take what we can out these books and use it to our everyday lifestyle to make a better self. Islam? And what's wrong with that? Knowing more today than what you knew yesterday. And it's all about reading. I know some of us don't like to read, but we need to get out that realm of thought.
Yes, sir.
All the Europeans saying that you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book. It's not a good demonstration. We need to think for ourselves. That's what the Prophet Muab-El Ali brought to us, to think for ourselves. Islam? Because a lot of other people want to think for us, and they use different tools with it. Facebook, different social networks, TV, the news. TV, they call that the idiot box for a reason, because you let yourself, you put yourself in the position of being an idiot.
That's right.
Because you letting somebody else think for you.
Yes, sir.
We need to teach our seeds to think for themselves. Islam? Because we can be more than just inmates, excuse me, and criminals. We kings and queens.
That's right, bro.
And we can all build our kids to be kings and queens. Islam? Just like Mary did, because her mother first teacher of the child. So Mary had to go through sacred groves. Her teachers earlier asked, what do I study first? You study self. Okay, after I study self, well, what do I study next? You study self, because it's an ongoing process of building yourself to this pinnacle. Islam? Making your weaknesses your strong points, your negatives your positives. And understand that fear is just false education, just being real. It's not even real unless you let it be real. And you make that fear your strength. Islam? That's building the pinnacle of man. And that's what we need to be doing. Islam? Let's go to verse 2. Hath he endowed thee with wisdom? Hath he enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicated to the wise for thy own improvement.
Let's go.
This only means each one teach one. Islam? That's why I honor the 5% nation, because they draw that 85% of this world is ignorant, deaf, dumb, and blind. 10% of the world know the knowledge but don't share it. But only 5% draw of each one, teach one. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. One for your brother, man, one for yourself. Islam? No, because it's only a few of us out here. 5%? It's only a few of us out here. It's after you visit these churches, especially men. As you visit these churches, mostly a lot of women, only a few men. Even in the temples I've been going to from state to state, I would say there's more men in the temples than women for some reason, because we want more science You know what I'm saying? That the women do, but we got to educate our queens. But still, it's only a few men. I'm in community relations right now. Since I've been involved with community relations, it's still the same men. The same men at the same marches, the same young men at the same community meetings, at the same community gatherings. Because there's only a few of us. That's why this temple right here in the Dome of the Rock, we strive to build more real men. Islam. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali warned us on this. He said, one day a mother tell a child to go to the store. When that child come back from the store, he said, what did you see? Mama, I saw a man. Not just a man with a mister hanging in between his legs, but a real man that demonstrating our power, clarity, and authority. Because it's only a few of us. As I say, that's why this temple strives to create more young, real men for these queens. And we do it through our nonprofit organization, New Age Urban Development. And we draw that, it's a new era time where we're going from state to state and develop our urban communities. We do it through our boxing program. Because some people think it's just about beating each other head in. It's really not. That boxing ring creates structure and discipline in these young men, and they understand there's nothing that can put them in the midst of fear. They wipe fear right out their mind. We strive to create real men through our lesson class that we have every weekend. You know what I'm saying? We just don't want these young men to understand the physical part of the body, but to also understand the mental part of yourself. Islam. We strive to create real men through our construction company. So these young brothers understand that just on the streets, you just don't destruct, but you construct. Islam. And that's what we're striving to do. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, he come for the youth and unborn. That's what we need to concentrate on. Islam. All right, let's go to verse 3. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubteth often and changeth his mind. The fool is obstinate and doubteth not. He knoweth all things but of his own ignorance. I know people like this. Know of all things but of their own ignorance. They never doubt. They never change their mind. Even you show them that they're wrong, they still argue the fact. They know of all things but of their own ignorance. But the wise man doubteth often. He's always growing. He's always exploring. And he have the portion of understanding that man does not know by being told. Man must be what he knows, so he studies and he seeks. And he also understands that true wisdom is less presuming than folly, meaning that you can spot a fool a mile away, but a wise man take you a lifetime to figure him out. Islam? Come on. No. Let's go to verse 4. The pride of emptiness is an abomination, and to talk too much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence and to pity their absurdity. To talk too much is the foolishness of folly. That's a known saying for the most. Yeah, but it's not just a saying. We should have the portion of understanding that we got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen twice as much as we speak. A lot of us don't understand that, because this chapter unity, not just to unify with you with your brother, man, you with your nation, but to unify you with yourself. Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught us that we got 2 selves, a higher self and a lower self. A lower self which breeds hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, everything that harms. A higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life. It's everything that's good about you. So we need to understand this, because some people being the lower don't even know it. While you're out there on the block selling dope to your community, cursing out your queen, anything, that's the low. And we got to learn how to crush that beast that's in us. Because we stand like this. Everything Prophet brought to us is significance with it. We raise these 5 principles on the man, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and crush that belly of the beast and stand on high. Islam? Islam. And don't trip. Everybody go through the law. Jesus, that's why he had to go through the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. Because he was tempted by his lower self. Not by just a demonic Satan, but his lower self. You know what I'm saying? Because if you want to find Satan, all you got to do is look at self.
That's right.
You want to find your God, he's in self.
That's right.
Islam?
That's right.
So just as he went through his temptations in the wilderness, we go through our temptations right here on these streets of North America. And we got to let it be known that we're going to stand on high at all times. Islam? Islam. I'm going to move on. I know everybody been sitting here for a minute. Verse 5. Yet be not puffed up in thy own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly.
That's right.
But just because we know these lessons more, we don't supposed to be throwing in nobody's face, you draw? Because Prophet Noble Drew Ali don't build no conceited man. We men of compassion, and we got to demonstrate that portion for our people. Because most people want to just put something over somebody's head. They probably not even walking that path anyway. And a block of wood can point. But we got to be the message that we bring. Islam? No, Mom. Let's move on. Verse 6. The wise man feeleth his imperfection and is humble. He laboreth in vain for his own approbation. But the fool peepeth in the shadow stream of his own mind, and is pleased with the pebbles which he seeth at the bottom. He bringeth them up and showeth them as pearls, and with applause of his brethren he delighteth himself. He boasteth of attainment and in things that are no worth, but where it is a shame to be ignorant, there he have no understanding. He bring up pebbles and thinking that they pearls. See, these people like us don't understand our value. Islam, that's what the problem is, man. We lost our values in our community. In the 70s, we was so-called black pride. We know we ain't black, but at least we had some type of pride then. You draw? Now, we don't have no values in our community. We ain't got no values. We don't respect ourselves. You think another nationality gonna respect us? That's why we got to bring our values back. Albert Einstein made a profound statement that always stick with me. Seek not to be a person of success, but a person of value. We need to bring values back to our community, back to our youth. Because our young men is hating on each other. It's a saying, you hating on me. That's right, bro. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they hate on each other so much that they'll take another man's life because they not in love with self. That's what Prophet Noble Drew Ali said. Our highest principle got to be love. That's right. That's the highest principle. Because when you have love, you have life. When you have life, you have love. This is synonymous to each other. Because if you ain't got no love, you're dead. Islam. That's why we got to bring our values back to our community so we can bring back to where our state of minds are. And that's in Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. Right. Verse 8. Even in the path of wisdom, he toileth after folly, and shame and disappointments are the reward of his labor. Now, that's a lot of our people. Even in the path of righteousness, we're going to toil after folly. Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought to us our 5 highest principles known to man: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. But he also brought to us as 5 foes of man. One is inconstancy. Then there's instability. Then there's misery, weakness, insufficiency of knowledge. But let's go back to that misery. See, that's what the problem is. That's why we toil after folly in the path of wisdom, because we're miserable for ourselves. Just as the Mo demonstrated, you know what I'm saying, when Jesus was kicking at the spring, you know, he seen some people just toiling away. And he's like, what's the problem? He said, well, you know, we just gonna toil and toil, you know, until we go to our heaven. And Jesus demonstrated, do you not know that Allah never made a heaven or hell for a man? We are creators, we make our own. Right. You know, we can be in our heaven right here. It's a state of mind. Islam. We got to get out the way of this misery, these 5 foes, and crush that beast and be in the pinnacle that we are. Islam? No more. Verse 9, but the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge. The improvement of the arts is his delight, and their utility of the public crowneth with honor. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue he accounteth as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life. Pardon the body, I just got some on my mind right now. As I read these lessons, I think about, man, that I gotta go and stand trial with some Europeans next Monday. Yep, the European nation, the Roman soldiers, Minneapolis police came up in here last year and created havoc. They put us in an awkward situation right now. And not because we've been out creating havoc with the community, you know, selling drugs, creating crime. No, it's because we've been stopping crime and stopping the drug selling in our community. So therefore, I'm an enemy to the cause now. Right. I'm stopping the police from their overtime. You know what I'm saying? And that's on something they don't like. So now I'm going through situations, the temple under foreclosure, lost my job of 10 years, you know what I'm saying? And looking at jail time, toiling. But these lessons keep me intact though.
That's right, Mo.
Our lessons teach us that man should be happiest when he toil. I asked Allah, why I got to go through that? I'm striving to do the right thing. I submitted myself to these youth so they can grow. Not I can grow so they can grow. But maybe I need this though. Maybe this will make me a better man, better leader. Islam? All the situations that we go through in life, whether it be wifey situations, bill, court case, whatever, man should be happiest when he toil. Because this test that we going through is only going to build our testimony. Our lessons teach us that a soldier would never know his strength without a foe. So we need these tests and trials, Islam. And I'm drawing that Allah is the best of planners.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate everybody coming out here today, though. You know, demonstrating on the prophet birthright. We need more social gatherings like this, though. Our temple should not be separated at all. It should be one temple, one prophet, one God. We should need more social gatherings like this because the time is right now. We need to be economically established. The Asiatic community is like a big breast full of milk and everybody getting their suck on but us. We need to keep the Asiatic dollars in the Asiatic community. Create jobs and business that we like, clothes that we like to wear, food that we like to eat. The time is right now to do that. Islam? The time is right now for us to be more politically aware of what's going on. The laws that they create today affect us. The time is right now to make changes. The Prophet Muab-El said, one day the wheel of industry will stop. And when it starts up again, it'll be in the Asiatics' favor. He also said in the year 2000, Moors are coming to their own. The time is right now, Moors. Islam? The time for us to make changes and make it right. One prophet, one temple. Islam?
Islam.
I thank you for listening to the lessons of the Prophet Muab-El. I'll leave you as I came in peace. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical and agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at the Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws that's laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return where the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is the holy and divine movement founded by Prophet Muab-El. And if the prophet is not right, then the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Islam.
All rise. 5 on the left, 2 on the right, face to each. Here's up 45 again. Repeat the mortuary prayer after me. Allah, Allah, Father of the universe, Father of the universe, Father of love, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night, and by day, through His holy prophet, True Ali. Amen.
Yes, sir. But everybody's still here.